Good morning, esteemed colleagues and members of the scientific community. First of all, I would like to thank the ICITOL 2026 Organizing Committee for the opportunity to present this contribution. My name is Marika Racri and I am a doctoral student at the University of Studies Orsola Benincasa in Naples, within the doctoral program Humanities and Technologies and Integrated Research Path Curriculum, Pedagogy and Teaching Methods. In this presentation, I will present the contribution entitled The Educational Pathway of Unaccompanied Minors Through Identity, School, and the New Educational Frontiers of Artificial Intelligence. This work was carried out together with my colleagues Lucia Maria Parodi Garcia and Angel Pablo Cordoba Dominguez and Professor Juan José Leiva Olivencia from the University of Malaga. The contribution is theoretical in nature and grounded in pedagogical and intercultural approaches. It focuses on three interconnected dimensions: identity construction, school as a positive educational network, and artificial intelligence. The aim is to reflect on how these dimensions may support or hinder processes of belonging, recognition, and participation. After this first introduction, it is necessary to clarify who unaccompanied minors are. According to the European regulatory framework, they are minors who enter the territory of a member state of the European Union without being accompanied by an adult legally responsible for them, or minors who are left unaccompanied after entering the European territory. This definition is important because it shows that we are not simply referring to young migrants, but to subjects to experience a specific condition of vulnerability, often linked to the absence of fragility or family and social support networks. In 2025, 21,125 asylum applications were lodged in the European Union by unaccompanied minors. This confirms that their presence continues to represent a significant issue within the European migration landscape. However, this number alone is not enough to understand these pathways. It is necessary to consider their biographical, educational, and relational dimensions. Their migratory experience often takes place during adolescence, a phase already marked by changes, redefinitions of the self, and the need for recognition. For this reason, the journey of unaccompanied minors is not only about moving from one place to another. It is an experience that deeply affects identity construction, the need for recognition, and the possibility of finding a new point of reference. Starting from these frameworks, the contribution is structured around three interconnected dimensions which shape the overall reflections. The first concerns identity construction. The second focuses on the role of the school as a positive educational network, and the third addresses the educational potential of AI. These three dimensions are not considered as separate areas, but rather as elements that may intersect within the educational pathways on unaccompanied minors. The underlying idea is that belonging, recognition, and participation do not depend on a single factor, but on the relationship between the minor's identity, experience, the quality of the educational context that welcome them, and the ways in which technologies are introduced and pedagogically guided. In this sense, the contribution aims to offer a theoretical reading of the conditions that may support or hinder these pathways. The first dimension concerns identity contraction. In the pathway of unaccompanied minors, identity cannot be interpreted as something stable, linear, or defined once and for all. On the contrary, it can be understood as a situated and relational process shaped through experience, relationship, and social practices lived across different life contexts. To understand this transition, we can read the identity pathway of unaccompanied minors as a continuum tension between the three dimensions: the past, limbo, and the future. The past refers to the culture of origin, memories, roots, and the need to maintain continuity with one's of story. Limbo represents the condition of transition, a phase marked by uncertainty, recognition, and the search for recognition. The future instead refers to the new social context, the possibility of participation, and the contraction of new point of reference. This dimension is particularly delicate because these young people experience two complex processes at the same time: adolescence on the one hand and migration on the other. For this reason, identity is not rebuilt from scratch, but is continuously reworked and transforms through the relationship between what one carries with them, what one encounters, and what one may become. For unaccompanied minors, school can be much more than place of instruction. It can become an educational, relational, and community space capable of offering stability, guidance, and recognition. In this sense, school represents a fundamental point of reference because it supports not only learning but also personal and social integration. However, inclusion cannot be understood as assimilation or as the simple adaptation of the student to the school system. From an inclusive pedagogical perspective, it is the system itself that must reorganize in order to embrace diversity. School can therefore become a positive network when it moves beyond a merely transmissive model and becomes a space of relationship, shared meanings, and belonging. In this perspective, the educational relationship is central. Teachers, classmates, and other educational figures can offer trust, continuity, and support, especially when stable family or social networks are missing. For this reason, school can help unaccompanied minors feel recognized not only through their vulnerability, but as subjects with personal stories, resources, needs, and possibilities. The third dimension concerns artificial intelligence. Before considering it as a possible education resource, it is necessary to focus on its critical side. The introduction of AI into educational context raises important questions related to access, neutrality, and discrimination. The first issues concern algorithmic bias. AI systems are not neutral tools because they reflect the data and the cultural models on which they have been trained. As a result, they may reproduce stereotypes, discrimination, and partial representation of reality. A second issue concerns hostile digital environment, where young people with a migrant background may be exposed to stereotypes, discriminatory discourse, and form of exclusion. The third issues concern the digital divide. Not all students have the same access to technologies, digital skills, or opportunities to use them. In this sense, digital tools may reproduce or even amplify inequalities. Finally, in the case of the unaccompanied minors, weak support networks, limited language proficiency, and discontinuous educational pathways can make the use of technologies even more difficult. For this reason, the inclusive potential of AI cannot be taken for granted. AI can become an educational resource only if it is placed within a clear, critical, and responsible pedagogical framework. After considering the critical aspect of AI, we can now move to its possible educational function. AI become a bridge to inclusion only if it's grounded in a clear pedagogical framework. Simply introducing technology and tools into school is not enough. Their educational value depends on how they are used and guided. First, AI can support personalized learning to adaptive environment, intelligent tutoring systems, and generative tools that respond to student linguistic, social, and educational needs. Second, it can facilitate language mediation, especially for newly arrived students, by supporting translation, communication, and access to educational content. AI can also help school identify situations of vulnerability at an early stage through data reflected to attend participation and learning processes. Finally, it can support processes of narrative reconstruction, allowing minors to organize and rework their own stories through digital languages. In this sense, AI does not replace the educational relationship. If used critically and responsibly, it can strengthen inclusion, recognition, and participation. In conclusion, the journey of unaccompanied minors raises profound questions about the meaning of education and about the kind of human, relational, and formative space that host society are able to create for those to arrive with experiences of disruption, expectation, and vulnerability. First, identity cannot be conceived as something imposed from the outside. It is a dynamic process built over time through relationship, mutual recognition, and the possibility of finding new point of belonging. Second, school can play a decisive role. It is not merely a place of instruction, but can become a fundamental positive educational network capable of offering stability, meaningful relationship, and concrete opportunities for participation. Third, artificial intelligence can be considered a resource with high potential for inclusion, but only if it is pedagogically guided. Its inclusive value cannot be taken for granted. AI can contribute to recognition and participation only when it is guided by an educational vision attentive to relationships, needs, and vulnerabilities. And for this reason, the future of education does not depend simply on the introduction of new technologies, but on the school's ability to use them to build educational contexts that are more equitable, inclusive, and sensitive to the experience of young people with a migrant background. It is in this direction that school, educational relationship, and artificial intelligence can work together to build pathways of recognition, belonging, and participation for unaccompanied minors. Well, thank you very much for your attention. The other contact details are provided on this final slide. I remain available for any questions, comments, or further discussion. Thank you very much.